Out on the most completed block, so this is the least completed block. So but after you've seen the first one, you can start to see how this begins to take shape. How they work the sides and then they work the middle. They'll put in the parking bays like they've done here on each side, then pave the middle. So we're really not that far off. You can start to see the framework of it pretty well. The white sidewalk on that side. In this case, we were able to save some of the Chinese elms. So there were more trees on the east side over here that were savable than the west side, so that was another reason to make the wider sidewalk over here. So again, you've got 28 feet of sidewalk to play with over there if you wanted to open an outdoor cafe or a restaurant or bar. One of the things we haven't talked about really is the second floors. In the 1950s and 60s, downtowns all over the country sort of hid their old-fashionedness by making their storefronts try to look more modern and less old-fashioned. And since then, we've learned that people really like that old craftsmanship as part of a downtown's unique character. So this is an example of a building that has a second floor up there. It's completely unused. But if you look at that door right there, that's the tip-off that there used to be a stairwell that led to the second floor, so you didn't have to go through the shops to get up there. The same thing exists over here. There's a door just past the Fulton Mini Mart that allows you to get up to that second floor. So one of the things that we'll be hoping to see as we progress with revitalization is that these property owners will say, hey, I'm only renting out the ground floor. Why would I not be renting out the upstairs too? And start turning those into lofts and spaces for creative professionals, people that are going to be likely to be down here and supporting all of these ground floor businesses because they're living here, they're coming down for their coffee, they're meeting their friends for a drink after work, and we start getting that flow that's just not a daytime downtown, but it's an 18-hour downtown is what most people talk about. So having people living up there adds to the round-the-clock eyes on the street. But we also know that every downtown resident, or downtown residents are 8 times more economically valuable than downtown office workers. That's how much more they spend where they live, and it just makes sense. We all kind of tend to hang out in the part of town we live in. So the more people we have living downtown, the more built-in economic activity we have, along with the vitality of them going for a run in the morning and walking their dog at night. And so you start to see more street activity and presence. So it's not just having apartments up here, which is great because that makes the buildings more valuable because they're generating more rent, but all the support it brings to the businesses and then just the overall vitality and activity around the clock. So just like with outdoor dining, it's not just one thing, it's accomplishing 3 or 4 of our objectives by doing one thing. And whenever you can cross off a lot of your checklist by just doing one thing, those are the things we want to focus on. But it also brings back the historic character once they get rid of whatever you would call this facade. Stucco and...
It's everything.
Yeah, stucco, and I'm not sure what that thing sticking off the top is, but you can imagine that being pulled off and having old brick back there and windows up there, a new sign plate for the businesses, new gooseneck lighting that looks really cool, and this goes from a dog to a really high performer in relatively short order. You can just see all the way down, just bad facades all the way down until you get to Bluebird, where he actually took the facade off and exposed 2 floors with windows.
So a lot of times I come walking down with my friend and we look up at these buildings that are abandoned and we say, why aren't they residential? Right. And I'm guessing a lot of it has to do with electrical, asbestos, other myriad of things. But is there a are you pushing for that?
Yes,
or are you guys,
absolutely.
Are there a lot of road bumps that are preventing that? Because I would love to see all of those being
in the
either.
past, it was the building code didn't allow it. Right?
Yeah.
That's changed as of last year.
Okay.
Yep. So in the 60s, they really they wanted everything to have a single use. And so if you were this kind of building, that's all you could be. You couldn't have, I mean, their idea of having a bistro with living up above was chaos. It's like, if we allow that, then, you know, anarchy will rule the day. And they were just very compartmentalized thinkers. I would say they're the people that always got the plates with the 3 segments on it so that their food never touched, right? Special that way. So, but what we like in downtowns is for everything to be all mixed up. So now we changed the development code to allow different kinds of uses. In fact, in this building, you could have a restaurant, you could have office, you could have 3 floors of a boutique hotel, you could have 2 floors of residential, and you could do another restaurant on the top floor. And after a while, if you said the office is generating a lot less than the residential, then you just change it to residential. So the buildings start adjusting to what the economy is demanding,
So
right?
that's existing code that allows that.
Right.
It's not
Just passed last November.
Is that just specific to Fresno downtown, or is that?
Yep. Yep. So that's good. Now there are still state requirements that make it difficult to change from one kind of use to the other. But if you think about the economics, and that's the real issue. So if I plop this building down that's totally vacant in Fresno, and I can pick it up and move it to downtown San Francisco, what would happen? It would be used, right?
Yeah.
Because there's so much demand that the developer can pay the cost to get that stuff done and still make a profit. In a depressed economy, they have the building, there's not enough demand yet for them to be able to do the investment or get the loan to fix it up. So what we're really working on here is changing that dynamic. It's really creating an economy so that we don't have to talk someone into buying that building or fixing that building up. The economy will be strong enough that people will just naturally do it because they know they'll make money by doing it. So we've been in a sort of a desperate period for the last 30 or 40 years where we're like begging you to buy that or fix it up, and we won't use code enforcement because we don't want to hurt your feelings because you invested in our downtown. And what we want to do is switch that and go from being desperate to confident. And we build this economy, and then someone says, what are you going to give me to buy that building? And we're going to say nothing. Buy it because it makes economic sense, because now we are changing and we have all these restaurants that are now busy and they're all paying $2 a foot. And so if you get a restaurant in there and they're paying $2 a foot, now you can start generating some revenue. And then a funny thing happens in bigger cities is that where you work and where you live is often in relation to something cool. So if you live in Brooklyn and someone says, where do you live? You'll say, by John's Pizza. And everyone's like, oh, you're by John's Pizza, or you're by so-and-so craft cocktail bar. Oh my God, you're by that place, you know? It's all in relation to that. So if this building owner figures that out and puts the coolest restaurant and craft cocktail bar in the Central Valley in this place, and another one up on the 10th floor, then people are going to want to live and work here because they're going to say, oh, I'm right above the restaurant Crop. Have you heard of it? Oh yeah, I heard that it won all these awards. And now you're instantly more cool by being associated with cool stuff. And that's what we like in the urban environment. We want to be around cool stuff, right? So that's how it begins to flow. And as it begins to flow that way, then these buildings will start filling up, right? It won't be because of subsidy or because they're kind-hearted or anything. It'll be, this makes economic sense. And by the way, banks don't care how cool something is. It has to make economic sense before they will give you a loan to fix it up. And that means that they have to have enough activity going on around that they can justify that the building will be filled up and active and generate enough rent so that they can get their loan paid back. So we're really building this economy from the ground up. Not grinding up the economy, building it from the ground up. All right, onward.
When I was in City of Tulare, I was part of the economic development. So We can get people from out of LA and stuff.